Hey everybody, if you're just now hopping on to this webinar, feel free, if you already have some questions from the other webinars that we've done with UREC, feel free to go ahead and put those in the chat if you're interested. I don't mind getting started a little early and answering some of those questions. But otherwise, we will get started in the next 3 minutes, and I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, if you're just now hopping on to this webinar, feel free to go ahead and put any questions that you may have in the chat or the Q&A. I will definitely get to those questions at some point with our time together, probably more at the end, but since we have a few minutes before we get started, if there's any burning fitness questions, exercise questions, feel free to send those my way. All right, so we'll get started in the next minute or so. Hope everyone is having an awesome Friday afternoon. It's a pretty day. Hopefully you can get outside and get a little activity and get moving. And I think next week is our last working remotely week. So I hope everybody enjoys some of the flexibility and before we get back to full time. It'll be an adjustment. Well, it is 12 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Whitney, and I'm the Fitness Services Manager over at the Rec Center. So I manage all the fitness programs that we have. That includes group exercise, personal training, Pilates reformer, and fitness testing. I do not do all that by myself, thank goodness. I have an awesome team. Charles Burrows, who you have seen on the webinars before, and Dee Hansen. They help out with all the personal training and group exercise. So we have a great team and we're enjoying our summer so far. I hope the rest of you guys are too. So I've done this webinar before. So this is just kind of a repeat if you haven't gotten a chance to learn a little bit about the benefits of moving and exercising. And I think we all kind of know those benefits, but I'm going to kind of break them down. And like I said, if you have any specific questions, please feel free to put those in the chat or the Q&A. If it's something that I can't answer specifically, I will write that down, or I'll get Ashley to help me and I will reach out to you, or you can send me an email if it's something private that you would like to talk about. But just to kind of go over my scope of practice, I am in the fitness world. And so my expertise is in movement principles and exercise. And so I steer clear from nutrition because I am not a dietitian. So if you do ask any, nutritional advice, I'm going to refer you to our friends on campus that know way more about that than I do. So let's talk about moving more and feeling better. I think, we always want to feel good, and I always want to feel good. So I always make sure that I have some point in my day that I'm going to physically move and exercise. And so we're going to kind of talk about what that looks like in regards to actually, engaging in physical activity or just engaging in daily exercise. I'm trying to get my little, let me get this. Technical difficulties. It wouldn't be, a webinar if you didn't have technical difficulties. So the first thing I kind of want to bring into light is changing your mindset when it comes to physical activity and exercise. I personally kind of like to steer away from the words exercising because sometimes it has that negative connotation to it, because when we think about exercising, we automatically think about sweating and working hard, and exercise doesn't always have to be that way. In fact, I don't really like to work hard or sweat, and I'm probably outing myself right now, but I like exercising or movement to be enjoyable. So if we look at the differences, we have exercising, right? And then we have moving, and I like to focus more on moving and moving the body. Our bodies are so interesting in how they're made, the way our joints are made, how our shoulders and our hips are very similar, and they're this ball and socket joint that require lots of movement. And so when we think about our body as this kind of interesting, intricate design, it does make sense that we need to move. And so if we think about, kind of the negatives and positives of exercise, we know the negative is going to be sometimes the commitment and the discipline, unless you like commitment and discipline. But a lot of times there's more negative connotations to exercise. And so by thinking about just moving in general, I think it sheds light and it's more positive. So the difference between exercising and moving, I kind of want you to do your own thoughts here. We don't have to like talk in the chat or anything, but just kind of think to yourself, what's the difference that you think exercising and moving is? What are your personal perceptions on exercise? And immediately you're going to have something that comes to mind, and that may be, oh, I love it, I enjoy it, I have to exercise, I do these classes, I meet with a trainer, I like to run. Or maybe you're on the complete opposite spectrum, and that is not something that you like to do. And so hopefully we can kind of make it a little bit more of a positive experience. So physical activity and exercising, those are very similar, but they're also kind of different. Physical activity is something that we do daily. It doesn't always have to be structured. Exercising and fitness is usually something that is pretty structured. For instance, I'm going to the gym, so I'm going to be physically active and fit, and I'm going to exercise and do these exercises on a daily basis. Physical activity, on the other hand, can be things that you do unrelated to exercise, and you don't actually know you're getting the benefits of exercise, such as gardening, working outside, doing things inside your home, working through functional movement principles, standing up and down, reaching up into cabinets. So a lot of those types of things. So I kind of want to change our mindsets, and I want to think a little bit more about a different strategy. So like I said, I love the idea of moving and not always saying I have to go exercise. So let's talk about that. First of all, this is some yoga because I teach yoga, and this is kind of my philosophy on a lot of things. First of all, we have to let go of expectations. Sometimes when we have expectations of what's expected of us each day or each workout or whatever it may be, that can be really stressful because we know each day is going to be different. We know we have different stressors and barriers that may happen. We know that meetings come up, work events come up at the last minute. You have to meet with your supervisor and you weren't really planning on that. And so we have to let go of this expectation of what we're going to do. The second thing is letting go of judgment. And I think it's pretty easy to think about people judging us because I know with fitness, we always feel that people are looking at us. And that's just kind of what I've noticed, even with myself, a general consensus that when I talk to people, that's how they feel. But also with judgment, we have to let go of our own personal judgment, letting go of how we view our exercise should look like, our physical activity, and what we should look like doing it. And then the last one is letting go of competition. I am not going to sugarcoat this. In the fitness world, in a gym setting, there is a lot of competition. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the vanity of flexing in front of a mirror. I don't know. But there is a lot of competition that kind of comes about. And so what's interesting, this is just Whitney's bit of advice, is some of that competition isn't with other people, it's a lot with ourselves. And so if we can let go of competition with other people and do our own thing, and then let go of competition with ourselves, hopefully we can have a more enjoyable experience. So letting go of expectations, letting go of judgment, letting go of competition. Those are our three things we're going to think about through the rest of this presentation and webinar. All right, so let's actually talk about moving. So I am a firm believer in moving the large muscle groups. These are things like your chest, your back, your legs involving your glutes, your hamstrings, your quads, the entire core. When you move your large muscle groups, you're getting a more efficient workout and you're working through more joints because we want to work through the body holistically. We're also burning more calories. I'm going to throw the calorie burn out there, not in a lose weight kind of way, but an efficiency kind of way. We want to practice good posture. I do not have good posture right now, so I'm going to sit up tall. And so I invite everybody, if you're sitting down or standing, to sit up tall in your chair. If you're working at home and you're sitting in a comfortable chair or your couch, go ahead and sit up tall. Find good posture. With working large muscle groups and finding good posture, you need to have complete awareness of what you're doing. So when we exercise, and I know you guys have seen this, and you've probably done it yourselves, because I mean, I know I have. I'm just going to confess all these things. But a lot of times we don't have awareness of what we're doing, and we have the end goal in mind. We have the idea of, let me just get through this exercise rather than being through the journey, going through the journey and being a part of it. And so when we're completely aware of what we're doing, we have a better workout and we actually work harder and more efficiently. Um, we need to focus on functional movement. So I mentioned this earlier. Functional movement are those things that we do every single day that we need to be able to do efficiently. So if you have kids, for example, I'm very sure you're probably reaching down to pick up toys, you're doing squats, you're doing lunges. If you are reaching up into a cabinet, the highest cabinet, you're lifting up on your toes, you're doing an overhead raise with your hands. If you're driving in your car, a lot of times we're twisting, looking over our shoulders to check the blind spot. So that's what functional movement is. We want to think about these exercises, actually, not really even exercises, but things we do every day and how to do them more efficiently, just better, so it feels better. We want to move safely. Um, I am very I guess you could say passionate about safely moving through the body because you can do something one way and get hurt. And if you do it the other way and you do it better and you're more aware, you're more conscious, you're going to have a safer movement principle and you're going to avoid the risk of getting injured. And I mean, that's what we want. We don't want to be injured and be set back from our daily activities because we got a lot we got to do. And so we need to be mindful of that. We also need to move dynamically. So this isn't like holding things or isometrics are great, but they have a certain time and place for those things. We want to move through the joint. We want to feel full range of motion. We want to feel our joints being lubricated by the synovial fluid and awakening, and so that our body can feel good and move efficiently. And we also want to move in increments. So we want to think about, we don't just want to grab a bunch of weights and start squatting 200 pounds. I don't think I could ever do that. But we want to keep our goals a little bit smaller. And we're going to talk about those goals here shortly. And then finally, one other tip that I have is we have 3 planes of movement and we want to move through all 3. So just an example of this would be moving forward and backwards because we always move forward, right? We're always walking forward. We want to make sure we're also doing things backwards, side to side, and we need to twist. Okay, so those are 3 ways to think about movement. All right, so let's kind of put those together. I'm gonna let y'all do a little movement while we're going through this webinar together. Okay, so the first one is squatting, and I'm actually gonna slide my chair back. It's probably gonna cut off my head, and that's fine because you're gonna know what I'm doing. But squatting, the best way to do this, in my opinion, is to have your chair at work. Simply turn it aside, tap your butt to the chair, and come all the way up. And if you want to try it at home or in your office, go for it. I love it when people interact with me, even though I cannot see you. But I'm simply just tapping my butt and I'm standing straight up. And the benefit of squatting is engaging the large muscle groups of the legs. So the quads, the hamstrings, the glutes, like I talked earlier, the calorie burn, the efficiency, moving through your ankle joint, your knee joint, and your hips. And then of course, if we add our arms, we're moving through our shoulder joint, possibly elbow if we change the movement of our upper body. So squatting is a great exercise to do. That's having us move in that plane of forward and back because we're reaching our hips back and we're standing up tall. And it feels good, gives you a little energy, especially when you've been sitting for a while at your desk. I firmly believe that squats are for everybody because you have the power to adjust your range of motion. If you have really flexible calves, hip flexors, anything that would, any muscle groups that would be involved in your squatting, you're going to be able to come into a deeper squat. If you're a little tighter, you can pull back on that range of motion. So it's really just tailored to you. The second one I would recommend doing, just starting out, if you're at work, is lateral side bending. So very simply put, sitting at the edge of your chair, really tall, nice tall posture, reaching one arm up, lifting up out of the rib cage, and just simply bending over. And you guys can't see, but I have my other hand on my thigh, or you could place it on your hip and just take a few breaths here. Feel the rib cage open up, stretching out your QLs in the back, rectus spinae, all these muscles that get really, really, really tight when we're seated all day long. And then we can do the other side, big lift up and over. So I would recommend if you do a lot of sitting, which, I mean, let's be real, that's all of us, we need to be doing lateral side bending, okay? All right, the third exercise or movement that I think we should all be doing is a chest expansion. I've said this before, if you visited one of my webinars, we are so involved with our cell phones and our laptops and our computers that it causes our chest to become really tight and our upper back to become very stretched. And so unfortunately, our posture is terrible. So instead of having nice tall posture, we tend to have this posture and we tend to jut our chins forward. So one thing I like to practice when I'm teaching classes or just myself in my office when I need that stretch is to take my hands, palms facing towards each other, reach back from my chair, sit at the edge, and open the chest. And if your hands don't quite reach back for the chair, you can always bring your fist to your hips, you can see, or hands to the little sides of the chair and just lift the heart, okay? So chest expansion, super easy. I would avoid trying to touch your hands behind you just because it shifts the focus from opening the chest to putting more emphasis in the upper back. And we want to stretch the chest. And then the last one that I would do, just to add to your 4 exercises, movement principles that you can do at work, is a seated twist. Twisting is awesome, but I will say you can hurt yourself twisting if you don't do it correctly. So if you know that you have spinal stenosis, if you have any type of osteoporosis, anything like that, you're going to want to be very careful with your twisting, and you're going to always want to make sure you stay really tall in the spine. So the first thing we have to do is get really good posture, sitting up nice and tall, before we practice rotating the ribs around the spine. So a simple twist would be hands on the thighs, sit up really tall. You're going to start with your head and your shoulders just turning, pulling the abs in, that low belly, and looking over to the side, and then coming back to center. And you'll notice I'm not using my arms, I'm just allowing the rib cage to rotate using my oblique muscles, my internal and external obliques, okay? Now, if you do get more comfortable with your twist and you want to add arms, you can simply just rest your arms, maybe one behind, one on the thigh, to give yourself a little bit more range of motion, okay? But like I said, we never want to crank into the back because that's when we get hurt. And twisting is one of those that we have to be super careful about. So there you go, 4 exercises, very simple. You could write them down, take a screenshot. You could put them on your desktop at work. If you forget what they look like, you can Google exactly what I have here and you'll find it. All right. So before we move on, I just kind of want to get you guys thinking a little bit about yourselves, because exercise is very important that we do our own self-assessment. You can't compare yourself to anybody. You have to do what feels good for you. Now we have guidelines. So in the fitness world, we have guidelines that we follow. We have recommendations that we give people. But essentially, when we're working with individuals, it's about that one person. And there's adjustments that have to be made for that one person because everybody's different. So the first thing you're going to do is connect with the body mentally, and you're going to think about how you feel. How does your body feel? And you can do that right now. You can just think to yourself, okay, it's Friday. I feel really worn out and run down. Glad it's the weekend. That's okay. That's normal. Or maybe today you feel super energized because it's beautiful outside and it is the weekend. So different things to assess in your body. We want to think mentally how we feel because your mental state is going to play into how you move, um, physically, obviously, emotionally, and spiritually. Um, some of these exercises you can start to notice if you personally need to make a change, or we call modification. A modification doesn't mean something's easier or harder, it just means it's different for you. And so if we can kind of change our mindset, thinking that whatever we need to do to change, like if it's a hamstring stretch, bending the knee a little bit, well, it's not that it's easier, it's that your body needs a different way to stretch. Um, Another thing you could start to think about is how often could you do these exercises? So the four that I gave you, how often could you see yourself doing those exercises throughout the day, throughout the week? Um, Kind of doing your own little self-assessment plan. Range of motion, so that's what ROM stands for, range of motion. This specifically is talking about the joints and how we move through the joints. So if you think about your shoulder making a circle, and if you do this right now, be mindful if you have some shoulder issues, like how does that feel? Can you make a full circle? Is it kind of a half circle? And just making your own self-assessment, maybe changing the direction. For cardio, we'll talk more about this as we go on, but checking our heart rates. And we have wearables now where we don't even have to do math or anything. We can just look at our wrists and we can check our heart rates. And then also, we want to be super mindful of fatigue and when we need rest. And I want to take just a moment to talk about this because I think sometimes we neglect it. Rest is very important. It's very important. It's almost more important than exercising every single day, which I don't really recommend doing. I recommend finding certain times that you can have energy, enough energy to do a good workout that your muscles will thank you for. And then listening to your body. And if you have fatigue, knowing when to rest, because like I said, rest is how you're going to get stronger and better. All right, so let's talk about baseline and assessment. You always want a starting point. So I'm going to speak specifically for us at the Rec Center. We work with clients because we have personal training services here. I teach Pilates Reformer in the studio, and anybody that we have coming in new to work with us on a one-on-one basis, we're going to do an assessment. That's going to help us establish fitness goals and create our plan for you. Because if you don't have that base, you're not going to see any progress. You're not going to be able to really track your progress. Maybe you can feel it, but it's nice to actually see accomplishments. And of course, it helps us to personalize the program for you. Like I said, we're all different. So what I do for my workout may be different than what you do for your workout. And it also helps us to determine our fitness levels. Baseline is great because, like I said, it helps us to create our goals. And so I think, obviously working at the university, we all know about SMART goals. So just a reminder, great way to set a fitness goal. And this is what we do with our clients. It has to be specific. If you choose a goal that's specific, you can visualize it, you can see it. So let's say my goal is I want to bench press 100 pounds. Yeah, I couldn't do that. Maybe I should have more faith. But say I want to bench press 100 pounds. That's a specific goal that I know I want to get to. So I'm going to take the little steps in order to get to that goal. And then measuring it. If my goal is to bench 100 pounds, then little by little, I can increase my weight and I can actually see the changes. Or if I'm trying to lose weight and gain more muscle, lose fat weight, gain lean weight, I can simply use the bod pod that we have at the rec center, or use the MAID app that Dr. Fidewa and ESCO have out, or I can do measurements. So there's ways that you can actually track your progress so you can see those changes. It's got to be attainable. This is one that, being specific is easy, right? We can say what we want to do. Measuring is pretty easy too, right? You can choose, how often you want to measure something. Being attainable is a whole nother thing because we have lofty ideas and goals about ourselves. And I think making sure that what we choose to reach for is something we are going to be able to reach. And that goes along with being relevant. if I'm 115 pounds and, 5'6", do I need to lose weight? Well, no, probably not. In fact, maybe gaining muscle would be a great goal. So, being mindful of yourself, having that self assessment, and using a fitness professional to help you kind of navigate through those goals. And then time bound, it's helpful to have a timeline. Don't worry if you don't hit your goal. It's okay. You're going to hit these things along the way. It may not always be in the timely manner that you think, but it can still keep you on track and you can still reevaluate. So that was just a little reminder of your SMART goals. And if you're someone that really has a hard time setting goals, that's what we're here for at the Rec Center. So we can, talk about that if you want to email me and I can get you some information on that. But let's talk about benefits of exercise. And of course, I'm sure you guys know a lot of these, and I just thought I would put them in our heads just so we can, have a pretty good idea. But first and foremost, benefits of daily exercise: reduce the risk of chronic disease. These are cancers, high blood pressure. These are all the things that when you go to your Well-Bama screenings and you sit down with the student, the nursing student, and they're going over ways to create healthy change and behavior traits in your lifestyle. It's to reduce the risk of disease. And exercise is important. Daily physical activity is important for that. It increases your mood and energy levels. If I didn't move every day and do something, whether it's a 20-minute walk outside or a 45-minute yoga class, I think I'd be pretty depressed, to be honest with you. I have to physically move. I have to release endorphins and feel good. And it's our natural brain chemistry that we have. And so we need to take advantage of it. It also helps us to sleep better. Anybody have trouble sleeping? Raising hands if you want to out yourself. I mean, a lot of us have trouble because, yeah, we have stressors. We just can't turn it off at the end of the day. And to be honest, physical activity will help. It might take a while to get used to your new pattern, but yoga, cardio, strength, anything that you can do to release some of that tension that your body holds in and release the good stuff into the body, it's going to help you sleep. Weight management, I think we know that. We know that exercising helps us to manage our weight along with a good, healthy diet that we talk with our dietitian about. We need to strengthen bones and muscles. If you are prone to osteoporosis, you need to be doing strength training. And we've got some webinars coming up this summer about mobility and strength training, just to talk a little bit more about the Rec Center and the equipment that we have and how this can help you strengthen your bones. I mean, it's a plus. It increases your metabolism and energy production. I think everybody likes a little quicker metabolism. And so that's what exercise does. It makes you more efficient and you use the energy that you're taking in, you store the energy, and you're able to use it more efficiently. And then another and final one I'll mention is decreasing our anxiety and depression. I think yoga is great for this, and I'll always speak to yoga because there's so many different types of yoga. It's not one thing. Yoga is as simple as sitting at your desk and doing a few breathing exercises and stretches to doing an hour and a half long yoga class. So whatever you think about in your daily routine of physical activity, it's going to add to these benefits, and it's going to be good for you. It's not going to be bad. The only time exercise is bad is if we have a tendency to abuse it, and that's when our body starts to break down. And so we have to find a really good, healthy balance. And to be honest, it's just listening to your body. If it hurts, if it's not being efficient, then we take a break. So the recommended daily physical activity, just ACSM, that's who we use in the fitness world, and the CDC as well, is any healthy adults ages 18 to 65, moderate intensity aerobic for a minimum of 30 minutes, 5 days a week. We should also be doing strength exercises. So this is information. You can go to ACSM, you can go to CDC, you can look at it. And just to give you guys a little visual, this right here I thought was helpful. I'm a visual person. I'd rather see a picture personally, but 150 minutes a week of moderate intensity. Um, Moderate intensity isn't super high where you're like out of breath and you're like breathing hard and you can barely talk. It's your heart rate is up and you feel work. Um, Vigorous would be that higher level. And then strength training, all major muscle groups. So big muscle groups, at least 2 days per week, to increase your metabolism, muscular strength and conditioning. And so that, I mean, that right there, if you want to take a screenshot of it, that could be your starting point. If you don't do any type of movement or exercise or anything, that could be a good way to start. So 150 minutes every week, it doesn't mean you have to do like 30 minutes each day. You could do it a couple times a day. If you know you've got more time in the morning, the kids have gone to school, you've got a little bit of break before you got to get to work, or you get to work and you could go for a quick walk, you know, kind of scheduling that out through the day. Strength training is a little tougher, I think, just because if you don't have access to equipment, you have to get creative. You have to think about ways that you can do body weight exercises or grab some lightweight weights to have in your office or bands. And so it gets a little bit more, you have to get a little bit more creative with that, but it's definitely doable. So there is a difference between fitness and physical activity. Um, Fitness is the body is the condition of being physically fit and healthy, like optimal health. And this is all of those things: strength, flexibility, body composition, cardiovascular endurance. Okay. Physical activity is bodily movement. Um, any intensity, exercise or non-exercise related. So they're similar, but they're separate. And so, for example, when we're working on our fitness, it has those components of strength, cardio, flexibility, body composition. When we're working on physical activity, it's playing with your kids. It's moving, it's being active and not necessarily putting like parameters on it. So just it's helpful to know that, because I think that sometimes we get so locked into, it's Saturday and I'm going to go outside and do yard work, but I need to go work out as well. Well, I think we need to have a little grace sometimes with ourselves. And if we're looking for the benefits of physical activity, doing those things outside is a benefit. Wear your sunscreen though. All right, so your 5 components of fitness: cardiorespiratory endurance, muscular strength, muscular strength and muscular endurance, flexibility, and body composition. And so we're just going to kind of break those down and kind of talk about what each one is so that you can get an idea. If you're looking to start a comprehensive fitness program, you're going to want to involve all of these components. So the first one is cardio. Anybody like cardio? I'm going to get some crowd participation. Raise your hand if you like cardio. We have a couple of people. Yay. Good for you. Cardio endurance is great and we need to be doing it. Some people love it, some people hate it. Cardio is getting the heart rate up. This is when you feel out of breath and your heart rate is up and pounding, and it's good. It needs to do that. It needs to have a little stress so that it can become more efficient. It's the ability of the circulatory and respiratory system to supply oxygen during sustained physical activity. So these are things like running, walking, swimming, aerobic dance, rowing, I'm trying to think, biking, any of those things, cardio classes like kickboxing, HIIT classes, days classes, anything that's like going to keep you going with your heart rate, sustaining it. It can kind of go like this, but essentially you're keeping it up. That's your cardiorespiratory endurance. I've given us some numbers here. 50 to 85% of your max heart rate is a very conservative number. And the reason why I chose that range is because I don't know everybody on this webinar, and I'd rather be more conservative when giving you advice on exercise. So 50% of your max heart rate is pretty low, but that might be what you need if you haven't gotten up and exercised in a while. 85 is still kind of low on the higher end. So we have this real fancy math problem. If you have like an Apple Watch or I don't even know what all's out there now, but Fitbit, all those cool things. You really don't have to do this formula because it's going to be tailored to you anyway with your heart rate, your resting heart rate. It's going to have the math already there. But let's just say you like numbers and you would like to figure out your range. This formula is going to help you do that. And what's interesting about this formula is you're going to need to reassess yourself about every 4 to 6 weeks, and this range is going to change because hopefully your resting heart rate will go lower, and so you'll become more fit. So you take 220 minus your current age, that's your max heart rate. You're going to take your max heart rate and you're going to subtract it from your resting heart rate. Now, to get your resting heart rate, you have to do this in the morning, like when nothing is startling you. So you don't want to do it when your alarm goes off. You want to make sure that you wake up on a Saturday, you roll over, you count your pulse, and you get your resting heart rate. Um, Subtracting that from your max heart rate is going to give you your heart rate reserve. So that's an important number because you're going to factor that in. And then you plug the numbers, heart rate reserve times 50%, add back in your resting heart rate. You're going to get your load number. So it could be something like, I'm just making up a number like, I don't know, 100 beats, something like that. And then you factor in, a number with 85%, and of course it's going to go higher. So that would be your range for cardio. You have your low end and your high end. They're both great numbers to work with, and it gives you some range. The higher the number, it's considered more cardio because your heart rate's up. You're going to be going through more fuel sources, and lower end, probably not using as many fuel sources at that point. So that's cardio. So just a little breakdown of that. Our second slide are two I put into one, but they are different. Muscular strength and muscular endurance. Muscular strength is the ability for the muscles to exert force. Muscular endurance is the ability for the muscle to continue to perform without fatigue. So that's typically done with a lighter weight, because if you were to get, like for me, if I were to grab like 20 pounds to do bicep curls, I might get like 4, maybe 5 in. Whereas if I grab 5-pound weights, I could do like 20 or more. And so they're both great. If we want to really work on strength, though, and building bone density and really focusing on strengthening the body, we're going to look for heavier weights. And so typically we go between 8 to 12 reps, multi joint exercises, 2 to 3 times a week. So just kind of an idea, they're both good. And I think it's good to kind of cross train within those and do some lightweight exercises and then load on the weight, but also be mindful of kind of what your goals are as well. Cool. All right, flexibility. This is my favorite, probably because I teach yoga and I like stretching. Flexibility, the range of motion available at a joint. We talked about shoulders and how much range of motion we may have at the joint. We have lots of different ways we can stretch. We can do yoga. Yoga is more static stretching. A lot of times we hold those poses for 15 to 30 seconds, sometimes longer. We have dynamic stretching. These are the stretches we hold for a shorter amount of time moving through the joint. So like a side lunge, kind of going side to side. Those are perfect for a warm up. We always want to do dynamic stretching before we do a workout because we're building blood flow and preventing injury by bringing blood flow to the muscle. We need to stretch every day. Flexibility and mobility are two very important factors that if we neglect them, we will get stove up. Like we will not be able to move. And especially if you're adding that into your cardio and your strength, cardio and strength are both going to cause tension in the body and it's going to cause tightness. So we have to be mobile and loose. And so that's why we need to be stretching every day. For dynamic stretching, we can do that 1 to 2 seconds moving through the joint. Or static stretching is holding it 15 to 30 seconds. And again, like I said, if you're stretching before your workout, you need to do dynamic. Save your static stretching for after your workout or for yoga. All right, I'm going to keep running through these slides. I know I've got some questions, but I am going to hold those to the end just so I can stay true to my time. The last component is body composition. We need to know what we're working with. The scales are not always a great indicator of our progress. In fact, they can sometimes really be detrimental because if we start to feel good, if our clothes fit better, if we feel like we have energy, and then we step on the scale and we see we haven't shifted or we've gained weight or we're just not happy with whatever the outcome is, that makes our attitude go down because we aren't seeing the results that we think we should be seeing. So over at the rec center, we like to use the bod pod. The bod pod is this lovely looking egg thing with Claire, and that's Charles, and it tests body composition through air displacement, and it's pretty accurate for the means that we have. Um, it's $30 to do a test, but when you get your test, you actually get a printout and it gives you some really good information to kind of help you with your fitness goals. Um, you can see there's a chart I put on here, kind of what body fat percentage needs to look like. We need to be in the normal range. Lean is great, but honestly, it's only ideal if you're an athlete. We have fat. Fat is an essential property for our makeup and our bodies. But we definitely don't want to be in the obese category. And if you are, again, it's a baseline. It shows you progress so that when you start strength training, you can look at how those numbers shift and change. We have a hydrostatic weighing over in the kinesiology department. You get dunked underwater, not my favorite one. We do the bod pod, and we also have skin fold. We don't usually recommend skin fold because there can be a lot of user error with that. So our mode is the bod pod for body composition. Okay, so all that aside, you might be thinking, I'm ready to move forward. I need to start moving. I need to start exercising. And so let's just talk about it. Let's just talk about what we need to do. What's next? There's no easy way, and I'm just going to put that out there. Any pill you take, any magic drink or voodoo or whatever's out there, it's going to be a short-term way to maybe get to where you want to be, but in the end, it's not sustainable and it's really not good for you. And so what we have to do is we have to be very vigilant, and we have to set aside time. We have to set aside time to be physically active. And I know it's very hard because we have so many different things we're dealing with. We're going back full time on campus soon. So it's kind of like, well, okay, how are we going to do this? We can do it. Hopefully you can talk to your supervisor. Hopefully you can find ways in the office to be active. There's lots of ways to move around. The easiest thing you can do is walk. But you have to set aside time. You have to schedule these workouts. You have to schedule your exercise time. That's your time. And I think that's more importantly, it's you time. It's not all about the physical side. It's mentally giving you a break so that you can be efficient at your job. We need to have some sort of accountability, whether that is a friend works out with you, or you come to the rec center and you take a class from me. I would love to have you, or you get a trainer. You've got to find some way that you're going to be held accountable. Maybe a really good playlist, or Netflix. I don't know. Campus resources. I'm always going to mention us at the rec center, especially now because it's summer and the rec center is like seriously empty right now. So if you're interested in coming over, now's your time to do it before all the students come back. At least kind of get used to the facility. Always listen to your body. The first time you start working out, the first couple of weeks, it's going to be hard, but guess what? It's going to get easier and you're going to start to enjoy it. You're going to feel like that's a need that you have, and you need to schedule that time to move. You're going to have some delayed onset muscle soreness. That's what DOMS is. You'll be sore the day after you work out, but then you may be sore like a couple of days after you work out. That's okay. That's normal. We want to avoid pain though, sharp pain, dull pain in the joints. We want muscular pain, strengthening type of pain. Okay. So there is a difference. And we also want to measure our intensity. We want to make sure that we're sticking with our goals and we can continue to add weight to our exercises, add reps to our exercises, hold stretches for a little bit longer, finesse our alignment and positioning so that we get a better stretch. So we're always kind of aiming for something more. So if you're trying to figure out what to do and you're like, I don't really want to get a personal trainer, I want to do this on my own, well, here you go. So this is how you're going to create your own workout, all right? Or you're going to start moving. It's called the FIT principle. Frequency, how often. You're going to look at your schedule and you're going to create this schedule that you are going to actually put in your Outlook calendar, and you're going to schedule that time. Intensity. We've already learned about cardio and our strength recommendations. So what type of intensity are we going to work towards? How long? Our time. How long are you going to allot for doing cardio? 15 minutes, maybe 20 minutes? And then what type are you going to do? So if you can stick with those four things, that's going to give you a pretty good idea of what you should be doing. So like, here's an example. So this is an example of a beginner's workout. I just kind of threw this together. So as a trainer, this is just kind of like a general workout plan. What I did is I got a graph, get in Excel. If you love Excel, have fun with it. Create your weeks, create your months, create, whatever it is. Figure out what you want to do. What is your mode? What are you going to do for cardio? Are you going to do 3 days a week? Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Are you going to do 3 days a week? Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday? Whatever works well with your schedule. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, or if you want to take a picture with your phone, like I said, I just came up with this literally with the FIT principle. This was just me making a chart, thinking through the FIT principle, and just making a quick little workout. So take a picture of it, save it so that you have an idea. And this can be anything. You don't have to walk or go jogging. If you like to swim, go swimming. If you like to dance, go to our YouTube channel and grab one of our days videos, or come to the rec center and do one of our classes. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea of what you can do for yourself. It's easy, really, to come up with a workout. All right, and then of course we need to measure intensity. Personally, for me, this is my favorite way to measure intensity for myself and for clients that I may work with. It's called the RPE scale. So if you can imagine a scale of 1 to 10, 5 is going to be about 50% of your max heart rate. 10 is 100%. You are there at your max heart rate. This gives you an idea of how you're feeling, and it's a explanation, basically a description of what you're feeling at each number. So for example, for moderate activity, something that we talked about earlier, you're in between a 4 and a 6. That's going to be 40 to 60% generally. Remember, the Carbonum formula is you. That's how you feel. This is just general, everybody. So it feels like you can exercise for hours, you're breathing heavily and can hold a short conversation. So a heavier breath, and you can still talk. So this kind of gives you an idea of where you should be. If you don't like numbers, you don't want to worry about doing all these calculations, that's fine. You can just think about a scale of 1 to 10 and how you feel. Take a screenshot of that and do some research on that. There's a lot of other good charts and information about that. And like I said, as a trainer, that's kind of what I prefer to use when I'm working with clients or teaching a cardio class. Okay, a lot of information. So we are here to help you because that's what we do. We have services at the rec center. We have free services available. We do have a YouTube channel. I invite you all to go check that out. UA Recreation is our handle. You can go to Instagram, you can go to Facebook, keep up with what we're doing here. Subscribe to our channel. So if we put any new content, you get a little ding. We have a lot of archived classes that we're going to be that are up that you can look at. I've got a couple of classes like stretching at home, a power yoga, power Pilates, like 20-minute quick classes if you want to join in on that. Check it out. We do have Group X classes that are free. So if you are a member at the rec center, you can register online so that you don't have to go and wait in a long line to get a pass. You can register in advance, 48 hours in advance. Or if you don't want to register, you can just show up, and if there's spots open, you can jump into a class. We also have a Pilates Reformer drop-in class on Wednesdays. It's $15. I do recommend, if you are going to do that class, you feel pretty good about your own movement principles, you exercise regularly. If you would like to get a consultation for the Pilates Reformer, you need to contact me directly, and I would love to give you a consult, take you in the studio, and just kind of show you what it is, talk to you about it, and get you started. We do have a summer program starting June 1st. It's Summer Heat. This is with personal training with Charles. Registration opens May 19th at our UREC shop. So you can go to our University of Recreation, go to our webpage, click on Tide Strong. That's our programming for our small group programming that we offer here at the Rec Center. Summer Heat will be for 8 weeks, 6 a.m. and 5:30 on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It is a qualifying program for Wellbama. Very different than Morning Mayhem that we offered in the spring and in the fall. This one is going to be focused more on some education, and it will be mostly indoors because it is summer and it is very hot in Tuscaloosa, so we will be inside for that. So check it out. There's some information online. You won't be able to register until May 19th, 2 weeks before the class starts. And then, of course, we do offer personal training, and I think that this is a really good service, especially if you need accountability. If you're paying for something, you're going to show up and do it because you're paying for it. And sometimes that's the little push that people need. And we have a great staff of trainers. And like I said, now's the time to come in and see what we have and take advantage of it. And, you know, we'd love to have you. So I am going to get to the chat here shortly. I do want to move on and let you take a picture of my information in case you have any questions specifically for me. If you want to shoot me an email, if you want to give me a call, if you just kind of need to talk through some stuff, I'm good to do that. I teach yoga on Tuesdays and Thursdays at the rec center, 12:15 to 1, 45-minute class. It's pretty much all faculty staff that come. I have maybe 1 or 2 students, but it's our break from the day. So I would love for you guys to come do yoga with me. I also teach a mat Pilates class on Mondays at 12:15 as well. And I would love for you to join that. So let's get to the chat. I'm going to stop sharing my screen and see what we have. If we have any specific questions, specifically for me. Yeah, and I'm glad that you guys are acknowledging that it's so pretty outside, and I really hope that you do get outside, go for a nice little walk because it won't be super hot. So something to think about for you guys that have wearables, Fitbits, and stuff like that. I had one question. What heart rate should we pay attention to if it's resting or when you're exercising? So your resting heart rate is just basically that's how you are, just normal. like when you wake up in the morning, that is your resting heart rate. When you start looking at your heart rate range, if you look at cardio machines, they're going to have the lower percentage at a fat burn and the higher percentage at like more carbohydrate burn. Do not pay attention to that too much. That's energy fuel. You always want to push higher, okay? You always want to go to your higher percentage because that's how you're working on efficiency of your heart. So if you're looking at your Fitbit and it's saying, okay, your resting heart rate is 60, I'm making up these numbers, by the way, your resting heart rate is 60 and your range is like 100 to 140, you're going to still try to work to 140 and sustain that, the highest number that you can for as long as you can. So working in intervals and doing interval training like HIIT classes or Tabata classes, that's really efficient because you can work as hard as you can for like seconds and then give yourself a rest. And you can start to see your heart rate shifting around. So if your heart rate gets up, the more fit you get, you'll start to see it come back down like quicker. And so, you know, don't let these commercial gyms and fitness equipment get you so locked in on fat burning and all that kind of stuff. Don't pay attention to that because it's fuel in the body. It doesn't mean you're targeting fat in a certain area of your body. That's not how that works. So think of it in more of the terms of how efficient can you exercise the heart, because that's what you're doing. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So my personal favorite is I don't like to try to sustain my heart rate and do this bell curve. I like to do high intervals, work really, really hard, and then take a break. High interval, work really hard, and take a break. Do we have any other questions in the chat? Anything specifically about fitness, about Pilates reformer, about personal training? Anything that you guys want to know? I'll give us a few minutes if there's anything specific. I will say this summer when we do have our webinars, the other two that we're going to offer, one with Charles and one with myself, Charles is going to focus on strength training, specifically strength training. and what those machines look like and what to do. So if you are a little unsure about how to do strength training, that's going to be a really good one. I'm going to focus more about Pilates and mobility, and talk more about Pilates reformer, because that's my favorite way to strength train personally. All right. Well, I don't have any other
Hey, Whitney,
questions. Oh,
I
I see
think we've
one
got a
question.
question in the
So I
chat.
do have a question right here. It says, so is yoga class okay for middle age? Heck yeah. Let me tell you something. Every single one of our yoga classes, we encourage people to do what feels comfortable to them. Okay. I would specifically look, if you're coming to our yoga classes, we have 3 that we're offering on the schedule. We have a gentle yoga, we have a yoga flow, we have a power yoga. If you're new to yoga, definitely stay away from the power yoga, because then it says in the title, right? It's power yoga. Come to my yoga flow class, come to our gentle yoga class. We give modifications, we give options, and honestly, we just like people to move. And when I teach a class and I look out at my class, I have one individual that's 81 years old. I have another one that is early 70s. I've got another individual that's 30s. I mean, we're all over the map. And so our goal in our yoga classes is just to provide the experience, and you kind of use our cues and figure out what's best for your body. So if you do come to a class, I really, really, really encourage you, especially if you have a medical issue, like thing like was written in the chat, any type of alignment issue, spinal issue, that you get there early for the class and you tell the instructor, because the instructor is going to prompt you on things to do that's different, and you're going to remind them as they're teaching to keep you in mind so that they give you the right cue. But yeah, as long as you're cleared by your doctor, that's the first thing we ask. As long as you're cleared by your doctor, you're good to go, and you talk with us and you let us know, we are more than happy to work with you. And we encourage you, because honestly, it's only going to make you feel better. I guarantee that. All right, any more questions? Like I said, now's the time. Now's the time to start doing it. The rec is dead. Like, get a membership for a month and just come try it out, because you're going to have your pick of the equipment. It's just, it's dead. So, take advantage of it. Well, thank y'all so much. Any other questions? If you do have a question, shoot me an email. My email address is whitney.pape@ua.edu. Super simple. And I'll see y'all in another webinar, or come to the rec center and come chat with me. Thank y'all for being so awesome. And
Hey, Whitney,
yeah.
I think we had one more question in the Q&A.
All right. Let's see. Oh, in a nutshell, Pilates was created by Joseph Pilates back in like 1924. He was a German fella that was a circus performer, and he was a boxer, and he really enjoyed the movement principles of the body. So what he did was he incorporated movements of yoga and just generally how the body moves, and he created this holistic approach. So it's a combination of stretching, strengthening, and core strength. And our core is made up of the hips, the torso, and the chest and the back. That's our core body. And so what Pilates does is it makes you more mobile, more flexible, stronger, and it gives you energy. So yoga is different because yoga is more holding poses and stretching. Pilates is a little quicker pace. When we jump on the reformer, which is our equipment-based Pilates class, we add spring tension to that. So we're working on strengthening muscle groups as well. Pilates is for everyone, for any age, for anything. We have people that are wheelchair bound that come to our classes, and we put them on reformers. It's very versatile, to be quite open and honest with you. Anybody can do it. So if you would like a consultation just to meet up at the rec center, you don't have to pay anything. We'll just do a 30-minute consultation. I would love to put you on a reformer or talk with you about it. If you're interested in a mat class, you can do that on Mondays at 12:15 at the rec center. But yeah, start researching, Googling beginner Pilates principles or beginner Pilates on YouTube, and just kind of visually see what it is. Like I said, it's my favorite thing to do for my own personal workouts. All right, y'all. Y'all have a wonderful rest of your day and weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye. See y'all later.